Hey everyone, I'm Scott Brandley.
And I'm Alicia Coakley.
Every member of the church has a story to share, one that can instill faith, invite growth, and inspire others.
On today's episode, Roz will be sharing her story of how a night of clubbing, a free Bible, and an unwanted move led her to a beautiful life she could never have imagined. Welcome to Latter-day Lights.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Latter-day Lights. We hope that you're all doing great. Alicia and I are very honored to introduce you to today's guest. Her name is Rosaline Hester, but she goes by Roz. Her friends call her Roz. Roz, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. And to our listeners, let me tell you, Roz is not only the most fashionable woman that I know, but she has the best personality. And I'm so excited that you guys are going to get to hear her story today. Because truthfully, she's phenomenal. Roz, you know that, right?
I thank you.
Yep, I think you're phenomenal too, Roz. So, why don't you tell
Thanks.
everyone a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born in Chicago. I'm the oldest of 10 children. I grew up in New York in the hood where you could always find a liquor store, but you'd have to look around to find a church. Um,
Oh.
so, yeah, I found myself, I'm a party girl, or I was, no longer. Um, if there was a party, I was there. If there was a drink to be had, oh, I had it. So, but I've always thought there was something more to life, that there was something I was missing.
The very first time that I met you, Roz, you treated me like I was your very best friend. Like you just came up to me and you just started like talking and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love this." So, you're also very outspoken. You definitely have this huge heart too, and you really treat everybody like they're your best friend. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, everyone knows where they stand with you. That's for sure.
Oh, and if they don't, I'll
Very
tell
true.
them.
All right, Ross. Well, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell us your story and share some light with everyone today?
Well, of course, I was saying I was a party girl. I partied 7 days a week. I was working one time, and my boss, I go to work Monday morning, work all week. Friday comes, I bring a bag to work. 5 o'clock, I run in the bathroom, change my clothes, hit the club, change my clothes Monday morning, go back to work. This went on for months. My boss says, "Well, Roz, we really like you here, but you've got to choose either you're going to work or party." Okay, I'm going to party. Problem solved. Or so I thought. I didn't realize that if I didn't have a job, I couldn't pay rent, or I definitely couldn't afford to go to the club. So, but that's what I did. I partied 7 days a week. Matter of fact,
Wow.
that's how I was introduced to the church.
Okay.
So, tell us a little bit about that. I know you kind of mentioned you were partying, you were at a club. What happened? How did that all come to be?
Well, in New York, the clubs close at 4. 4 a.m., everybody has to go. Well, you don't have to go home, but you have to go out of there. So about 4:30 in the morning, I returned home from the club and I turned my TV on and there was a commercial. Hey, if you like a free Bible, call this number. And who doesn't want a free Bible? So I called the number and I gave them my information. They said, "Hey, thank you. And you would be expecting your Bible within 4 to 6 weeks. Thank you for calling."
Nice.
Well, about 3 weeks later, my doorbell rings. I lived in West Hempstead, New York, up over a storefront. So my doorbell rings. I open the window. Who is it? "Ah, we have your Bible. And we'd like to tell you about the Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ." Oh, wait a minute. I'll be right down. And of course, I was searching. I searched all my life. My mother didn't particularly go to church, but I would go to church with my friends. I I've been to pretty much every church: Kingdom Hall, Methodist, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, the mosque, Islam. Yes, I was, yes, considering
Wow.
Islam
Okay.
for a while also. So,
So you did some
oh,
research, huh?
yes, I did. But I found that if you really want to know something about somebody, you got to know what makes them who they are. What are they interested in?
Mm,
What makes them who they are? So, the elders, they were 18 and 19, and they're like, hey, have you ever been to the Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ? I've never heard of them. Who are they? Oh, they're the Mormons. What? Mormons? Aren't they the ones with all the wives? So I thought. So they're like, no, but if you have time, we'd like to introduce you. We'd like to tell you a little bit more about who we are. Joseph Smith, the Book of Mormon. And of course, I'm searching and I wanted to know more.
and at this time you were married, right?
Oh, not yet. I married him. I married
Oh,
him.
you got married
Yes,
to him
yes.
afterwards.
My
Okay.
first husband. He's an atheist. Oh, he's
Okay.
still atheist. So, but he didn't believe in God. He still does not believe in God. So it was one afternoon. He got off of work early, and me and my son Chance, that's my oldest son, we were studying the Book of Mormon. He comes home, and the elders are telling him, "So, what can you tell us about God in your life?" There is no God. How is there a God? If there was a God, none of this would have happened to me that's happened in my life. And they're telling him, wait a minute, you can't believe in the Big Bang. What do you mean there's no God? Listen, I can tell you there's not a God, because if there was a God, he would have made sure this and that would not have happened in my life.
Yeah, that must have been really hard,
It was
right?
hard. It was hard. But he's telling them, well, you know what? No, we're not going to have this discussion anymore. I want you to get up and get out of my house. Whoa, excuse me? Sit back down. I have a job. I help pay bills too. And the eldest, they told me, they said, wait, um, we apologize, but because of our beliefs, if your husband doesn't want us here, then we can't come back. But do us a favor. You got to promise. If you ever get to Utah, you go to Salt Lake to visit the temple. You got to be kidding me. I wouldn't get caught dead in Utah. Well, of course, I'm in Utah, and no, I'm not dead.
Hey, we're so glad that you actually got here, that you made it to Utah.
Yes.
And we are.
But you know what happened? This was 3, 4 years later. He had a sister here, and we were looking for some place to move. And where would I go? I came to Utah. And I was married to him now, and things just weren't working out. So I went back to New York, took my son, and came back to Utah to decide where I was going to live. And of course, I was introduced to the church again. Now that's what changed my life.
Awesome.
So, Roz, how long had this been from that night, where you saw the commercial? And I remember those old commercials. They were genius, I thought. Um, from the night that you saw that commercial to now you're in Utah and you don't really know where you're going or what you're going to do. How long had that been?
About 5 years.
5 years.
About 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Whenever I was first introduced to the church, Chance was 7. Whenever I brought Chance back out to Utah, he was 13.
Okay.
Okay.
So a lot had changed.
Awesome.
Very cool. So now Chance, he was your only child, correct?
Yes.
And then at this point, you had divorced your first husband, correct?
I had divorced my first husband, and I I was searching, and I started going to church and asking God. I wanted a family. I had never been a part of a family. Yes, I'm the oldest of 10 kids, but my mother treated the kids, my siblings, better than they did me. As a matter of fact, my mother would say to me, I'm your mother, and a mother's love is the best thing you could ever have. And if I don't love you, who will? So, growing up, something was wrong with me. Why aren't I deserving of love? So, between the drugs and the drinking and the promiscuity, I thought I was happy. I really thought I was happy. And then I was introduced to the church and found out that I wasn't happy. I was just going along. I was breathing, drinking, clubbing, but it was to get by. Because even though I knew there was a God, I didn't know how to pray. Had no idea. So, so after coming to Utah and starting to go to church and actually reading the Book of Mormon, going to sacrament, finally something started to click. I still didn't know how to pray. But one of my friends said to me, well, if you want to pray, you talk to God like you talk to your father. I didn't know how to do that. I'd never had a father. So her name was Patty Browning. Patty said, well, try talking to God like you would talk to me. Well, it was so easy for me to talk to her. So that's what I started doing. And between praying and crying and asking God, doors started to open, windows. The things that I used to do, I was no longer doing. And not only was I not doing them, I had no desire to do them.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, had you been baptized at this point, or were you still kind of looking into it,
I was
looking into
still
the
looking
church?
into it. And then
Okay.
I was baptized. Now, being baptized, it wasn't what I thought it was. I thought that I'm going to be baptized, and all of a sudden, overnight, everything would change in the blink of an eye. Oh, it's changed. That's not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was drinking, I'd have it. Oh, how did I even like this stuff? I didn't want to drink. Drugs? Oh no, it's not what I want to do. What I want now is a family. I wanted a family and the church. What really drew me in was the fact that when I went to church, everybody was so loving. Their their families, I'd be sitting in the back and you see the wife rub her husband's back or the husband reach over and hug her and their kids, they're hugging the kids and the kids are just so well behaved. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I want. I want a family like this. I've only had the one child. So I'm praying and I'm asking God for a family. And I wanted more children. And what do you know? I was blessed. I was blessed. Um, I met a man who had children, and I thought that this was going to be my life. I was going to marry him and was going to have a big, happy family. I do have a big, happy family. I don't have the husband. I don't have the husband, but God put these two amazing children into my life. And from the very
That's
first
awesome.
day that I met them, I decided that I was going to be their mom.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know that's a bittersweet story, but it's an amazing story.
It is. I met this gentleman and I was working. I was working at Five Guys, which is really funny because I work at Applebee's now. And what I do, I host. I never was behind the counter. If you come in, I would talk to you and get you to feel comfortable and invite you back. I met this guy, and he had told me, "Oh, I'm here from well, Chicago, and I came to Utah to get custody of my children, and the judge granted me custody." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, who are you? Oh, I've got to know who you are." Something was a little off. I couldn't put my hand on it, and I kept asking him, "When am I going to meet the kids?" Because we were dating. Now he say, "Well, let me take you out." "Oh, I work at Five Guys. Come eat at my job. I'll pay for the meal." And one day his phone rang and he starts yelling at the top of his lungs. I'm like, "What is wrong with you? You're going to hate me. My children are not in California with my mother. I got custody of them and I lost it to the state." "You lost custody to the state?" He says, "Yeah." And the phone call was DCFS. The foster mother just broke my son's leg.
Wow.
Will you come to the
Oh
hospital
my
with me?
gosh.
So I
Jeez.
go to the hospital with him, Ogden Regional, and I go in, and by the nurse's station, there's this baby. He's about a year old, and he's crawling around with a truck. And I see him, and I say, "Hey, man." And he looks at me, and he throws the truck, and he crawls over a little bit, and then he stands up and he walks, and he reaches his arms up and put his arms up, and I pick him up, and I'm holding him like, "Oh, he is so cute." I go to this room. There's a police officer standing outside, and I walk in, and this baby, he just turned 3. He's laying in bed where the foster mother had snapped his tibia, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness." So I winked at him, and he winks back, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness." The DCFS worker, her name was Jeannie Keebless. She's, "Oh my goodness, I don't know how this could have happened. And we want to give these kids back, but he's not responsible. Are you going to be the one responsible for raising these children?" Remind you, I just walked in and met these children 20 minutes ago. I look at the kids, I'm holding the baby in my arms, and I say, "Yes." She said, "Well, you have to marry him." Ooh,
Oh god.
I'm laughing because I
That's a
married him
commitment.
the worst 3.5 years of my life. But
Oh.
during this 3.5 years, I got to get closer to God. I continued to go to church. I finally decided I couldn't stay with him any longer. But now I figured, listen, I'm going to lose my kids if I stay with him. I'm going to lose my kids anyway. So I walked away and took his kids with me.
Wow. I have to tell you, Roz, that's absolutely incredible of you. I love how you took that call to be a mother and how you literally opened your heart and your arms and your home to these kiddos that desperately needed one, you know? It reminds me of this quote that I heard a few years ago, and it said something to the effect of, if God has given you the ability to do something, then you have the responsibility to do it. And that's exactly what you did. It's truly inspiring.
Um, I had always wanted more children. I wanted children. I wanted this family. I wanted this fairy tale life that I see everybody else having. And I got my family. I don't have that husband yet, but I have my family. Um,
We're taking applications, right,
that's
guys?
what I'm saying. So, um, and I meet a lot of people, and I always tell them, They're like, these are your children? Now, their parents, they are here in Utah. And I always make a habit of saying, I am their mom, but they have a mother. I'm their mom. And they know their mother, but they know me as a mom. They know
Oh,
their father, but they know me as mom. I'm that one person. I'm that stability. I'm stable. I'm that one person that's never going to go anywhere. But if it were not for the church, there's no way in the world that I could still have these kids. Not with the life I was living.
right. Well, and one of the amazing things here is you were in your 50s at this point when these kids came into your life, right?
Yes, my son was grown. I had just finished raising my son. He doesn't need anything else. He can take care of himself. I'm done. I'm going to do Roz. Roz is going to start back partying. Was I wrong? God said, "No, you're not. No, you're not."
So, Roz, this whole experience obviously has been amazing. It's not only affected you, but it's affected these kiddos that you took into your life. But what do you think is like the main takeaway? How do you think that this really did change who you are and where your life is and the direction that your life is going?
Well, if I'm going to tell you what changes, I've got to tell you this story. After I had left the children's father, I was getting $700 a month. I didn't have custody of the kids. I couldn't get childcare because I had custody, but it wasn't legal. I couldn't get food stamps because I had custody, but it wasn't legal. Couldn't get anything because I had custody, but it wasn't legal. I'm getting $700 a month. My rent is six. How am I going to feed them? How am I going to take care of them? And I had just moved into this apartment, one bedroom, didn't have furniture. We were sleeping on the floor on blankets. And I had just gotten my $700. I paid my rent. And I'm trying to figure out how am I going to pay for my lights, my gas? How was I going to feed my kids? And there was a closet. And in this closet, there was nothing, but it was a little closet. It was enough room for me to go in and close the door. So I got a candle and I lit the candle. I threw a pillow on the floor and I had a little table. I had the Bible and the Book of Mormon on this table, and there was enough room so I could pray. And in the midst of praying, I'm crying and I'm asking God, help me. How am I going to take care of these kids? I can't do it. I don't even have food. And in the midst of crying, there's no lights in this closet. There's nobody in this apartment other than me and these two children. And I'm crying and I heard something say, pay your tithing. I opened the door. I'm like, boys. And they're like, yeah, mom. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay. And I'm looking around like, okay, well, so there's nobody else here. And I continue to cry and continue to pray. And I hear something again say, pay your tithing. It's a Saturday. There's a church. It's about a little over half a mile from me. It's about 95 degrees that morning. I walk to the church. I take 70 out of my $90. I walk to the church and I pay my tithing. I asked for help. The bishop said, too many people come for help. I'm not going to do it. I said, well, I just want to figure out how I can get help. He says, you come to church next Sunday and we'll see. The next Sunday, I show up to church and this young couple, Lindsay and Aaron Roberts, they come in. I was sitting there and Lindsay says, can she sit next to me? She says, well, can we take you back home? And they invite me for dinner. I paid my tithing. The next Tuesday, I'm sitting on the step. I have no furniture. My phone rings and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sitting outside." "Well, where do you live?" "I think I'm a couple of blocks from your house." "My son had furniture in storage. Well, it's on the truck. We're giving it to you." There's my furniture.
Wow.
Wait a minute, it gets even better. So that same Tuesday afternoon, I got furniture. I got a bed. I got a table. I got chairs. I got a sofa and a love seat. My phone rings. My friend says, "Hey, I'm going food shopping. Where do you live?" I give them the address. They pull up. They take me food shopping. I have a refrigerator full of food.
Wow.
Gets even better. My bishop calls. He says, "I'm going to give you a recommendation to work at DI." What? I worked at DI for 3 days. I got a job making 11.50 an hour. Okay, I got a job. I got a place to live. I got food. I still don't have custody of my kids. I got numbers from lawyers from Utah Law Services. They didn't handle the case that I needed to go after the parents to get custody of the kids. I called these lawyers, and on the ninth lawyer, I met him at juvenile court. He says, "Do you have any stocks?" "No." "Do you have any assets?" "No." "Do you have any property?" "No." "You have a safety security box?" "No." And every answer I would say no. He'd say, "You can't afford me." At the end, I'm boo-hooing, crying, unconsolable. He says, "Why are you crying?" "I'm going to lose my kids." He says, "I didn't say I wasn't taking the case." I said, "You can't afford me."
Wow.
This lawyer, Kenneth
Oh
McCabe,
man.
he paid for the filing fees. He paid for the everything he paid out of his pocket. I walked into court. 6 months later, I walked out with full guardianship of my children. And it's all
Oh my
started because I
gosh.
paid tithing. And I
That
believe that
Wow.
with all my heart.
that is amazing, Roz. And we've had many conversations about. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg, folks. She's got so many stories like this, and you. I'm sure you've been captivated just listening to her in this short amount of time, but she can talk like this for hours, and you're just like sitting on the edge of your chair, just listening to every word that she says. Um,
It's very
well, I
true.
think Roz, we might have to
Oh
have you on the
man.
show again because you just got too many fun stories and things that you can share. But is there any last thoughts or comments that you'd like to make on this episode?
Yes, there is a comment. All my life, and this is all my life, I've searched and I've looked, and I knew there was something that I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in at home. I didn't fit in at the clubs. I didn't fit in anywhere. And I didn't know. I knew what it was to love, but I didn't know what it was to be loved. Had no idea what it was. I knew that once I had my son, I loved this child with all my heart. And I knew he loved me, but it was something that I had to search for, something I kept looking for. And after being baptized and becoming a member of the church, I realized that what I was looking for my whole life was for God to love me, to feel that I was important. And since joining the church, and I tell my friends this, they're like, "You're Mormon?" Yes, I am. But I'm happy. And if I'm this happy, if God would do this for me, could you imagine the things He'd do for you? If they're
Mhm.
all I've done in my life, and I've done some things that I'm not so proud of, but at everything I've done, it brought me here. It brought me here to this very point in time in my life when I don't have a lot, but I'm one of the happiest people you'll ever meet. And I know it's because I joined the church. This is not, definitely not where I saw my life. I didn't see myself raising children again. I definitely didn't see myself not partying 7 days a week. I didn't see myself not clubbing. I did not see myself not having two or three boyfriends on the side. I have my kids. I go to church. I pay my tithing. Oh my goodness, could life possibly get any better? I don't think it could. I really don't think it could. And it's not because of the things I have. And I don't have a lot of money, but I am so very rich. I have the
Right.
best friends. I have the best life. There's not a lot of it, but I've never been this happy. I'm actually happy. This is who I am. I wake up in the morning, the birds are singing, the sun is shining. It could be a cloudy day, and my sun is always shining.
Yeah.
It is. I've
Oh,
never known this amount of happiness. And let me tell you, and I've told all my friends, since becoming a member of the Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ, from that day, I saw the little changes. But 6 months, I look back and say, wow, it wasn't little changes, they were huge. They were huge. And I've had somebody say to me, "You're LDS, you're black." Oh, really? I didn't realize I was. I didn't know. I didn't know. But they don't they've only going by things that they've heard. You know, if you don't know, you believe everything you hear. Don't believe
Right.
everything you hear. Give the church a chance. It changed my life. I'm sure to change yours. That's what I
Right.
live by. I tell everybody this.
I love it, Roz. And I love you. And you've changed my life and my family's life for sure. Um, so,
yep. I ditto
yeah.
that.
And we're so grateful that you're in our life. You're a blessing in our life. And I know you just light up everybody's lives that you come in touch with. And thank you so much for sharing a part of your story today with us. And we
Thank you for
are
having
grateful.
me.
Yeah.
Love you both. Thank you.
Well, folks, that is a wrap for this episode. We would love to hear any feedback from you guys. If you would like to head over to our Facebook page and you want to like, share, or comment on there, we would really, really appreciate it. It's just Latter Day Lights. You can also go to our website, latterdaylights.com, where you can submit your own story. If you have a story, it can be totally different from Roz's. It can be somewhere along the line of where she was, or right down the middle, and we would really love to hear it, because just like Roz has truly been a light, she's kind of been that sunshine for a lot of people. We know that your stories can do that same thing for others, that when you share your light with the world becomes a little brighter, and it gives people the inspiration and the hope and the motivation and the courage to share their own lights. So please be sure to reach out to us to leave us some feedback and to let us know if you'd like to be on the show as well.
Then once again, thank you for joining us today, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
guys.